Alright, so somebody sent me this message and I'm responding back to the message. Now, I don't pay attention to stuff going on out there. I don't really watch movies, I don't watch TV, I don't really read up on the news. So it's almost like I live in a different world, compared to the average person out there. So most of the time I only find out about stuff when people email me. But basically this person emailed me about this thing, about some type of racism thing, alright? So it's about the Clippers owner Donald Sterling to girlfriend. Says something. This is the title the guy gave it. It said NBA racism and LA Clipper owner banned for life over racist phone call speaking to his mistress. Alright. So the title of the video is the Clippers owner Donald Sterling to girlfriend, don't bring black people to my games. Okay. So I actually did watch the video. It's about a 10-minute video. Alright. So this is what the guy said that wrote me the message. Alright. He said, what's your opinion about LA Clippers owner Donald Sterling, his racist phone call talking to his mistress, and NBA banning him for life? Donald Sterling was talking to his girlfriend on the phone for several minutes. She posed in an Instagram photo with LA Dodgers owner Magic Johnson, and that made him upset. Sterling preferred black people as enemies, and it made him look bad. His mistress made him look bad for his mistress with hanging around black people. His mistress is mixed race, African American, Mexican. TMZ got access to the recorded phone call. NBA ran an investigation and decided to ban the Clipper owner for life. Alright, so I think he was also charged, he was also fined $2.5 million. Now, based on the information, my thoughts on it is that I think from what I heard, because I talked to one of my students about it briefly, this guy is like a billionaire, I believe. So $2.5 million to a billionaire is like charging me like $5, which is like nothing. So that's like not a big deal, right? The money, slap in the wrist. But as far as like banning him from the NBA, I mean, if he's already so rich, if he really is a billionaire or even a millionaire, who cares? He could take his money elsewhere. He could go own an NFL team or NHL or tennis or whatever sport. He could go wherever he wants to go with his money, or he doesn't have to go into professional sports at all. He could just reinvest into something else like real estate or whatever the case. So I don't think it would really matter to him. And I heard from my student that he's also been involved with other cases where about racism and him being racist and him defending that in court and going to court over it. So it doesn't surprise me at all, that somebody would say something like this. And I think racism, this is a clear indication that it's still very strong. Has never been healed. And is racism getting better? Like, is the world getting better as far as racism is concerned ever since Martin Luther King Jr.? I don't really think so. I think it's just it's more dynamic now because it's more hidden. Back then it's more like outright, right in front of your face, blunt. But now it's just so hidden that you don't know who's a racist and who's not and everything. And I was talking to my student about it as well, and he had a hard time understanding this. But I felt that that racism to me is very much intertwined with the way this culture is and what America promotes, and the whole idea and concept of competition. You know what I mean? Like, racism is essentially an expression of this ego, this pride, this self-worth of you being better than the next person. And it's a disease of the mind that needs to be fixed. And when it comes to racism, because it's a taboo and because of Martin Luther King Jr., they have taught the people that racism is wrong and it's something that you should not be doing. But it's hard to basically truly heal people and have them truly become non-racist when everything else in their life you're promoting like a certain mentality that essentially promotes racism. It's like basically, it's almost like you know, putting all these subliminal messages in the music and the movies and television, making everybody all highly sexual, and then punishing them for looking at porn. It's just something like that that's just ridiculous. You know what I mean? It's like people, they're trained in this culture. They are trained to be competitive. You know, they are trained to be against their neighbors, and they're trained to have like a certain feeling of pridefulness and feeling of superiority over the next person. You know, when you go to your job, that's what it is. You know what I mean? Like different hierarchies, you know, different levels and promotions, and how people are below you and above you, and then you're just fighting to get to the top and to put others below you. And the racist mentality is functioning along that same type of like way of thinking, you know. And it's a huge problem because this culture values competition so much. They value the ego so much that racism is one of the ugly expressions of this ego and this pride. You know, like a white person, racism is like a white person thinks he's better than a black person just simply because he's white. But say you take that out of the picture and you ban that and you say you're not allowed to think you're better than another human being because of your skin color. But you're allowed to think you're better than another human being because you have more money. So then people that have a lot of money, then they get that mentality, well, we're better than all these poor people. All these poor people are slaves, they're nobodies, they're worthless people, and we, the people with money, are better than all these poor people. So that's another example of how that racist mentality could just transfer into a mentality of thinking between the rich and the poor, or it could come into an example where between the fit and the unfit, you know, the fit people, they could think themselves to be superior over the people that are unfit, and then, you know, they start bullying the people that are unfit, you know. There's just so many examples, you know. People that have hair could start feeling that they're superior over the people that don't have hair, or people that are young could bully the people that are old. I mean, it's endless. It's just the mentality that compares constantly. And so this person making these remarks does not surprise me in any way. It's pretty much expected. Like, I already know there's people all over this world that think like that, you know. And my thing is, how are you supposed to fix it? Well, what they're doing is not fixing it. They're just sweeping it under the rug. They're not healing anything. They're just you know, the law never fixes anything. You know, they can make as many laws as they want, but it's not gonna fix anything. You know, like, it's against the law to kill. People still kill. It's against the law to speed. People still speed. it's against the law to be racist in the work environment. People are still very racist in the work environment. You know, it's against the law to beat on your children. People still do it. You know what I mean? Like, it's against the law to smoke weed. People still smoke weed. It's against the law to have a gun when you don't have a license, a permit, or a FOID card. People still have guns without a license, a permit, or a FOID card. You know, it's against the law to drive a car without a driver's license. People still do it. So the law doesn't fix anything. You know what I mean? Like, really, when it comes to things like racism, what will cure racism and fix the problem is like a deep spiritual understanding, spiritual awareness, and like the heading towards truth and the understanding of truth, and basically an inner realization where you end up having this deep realization, and you make that change towards liberating yourself from having that racist type of mentality. And this goes beyond the law. You know, it's like a spiritual awareness. That's what would fix it. But people, they don't want to put in the time and the effort to truly gain that understanding. You know, and that's why it's never going to disappear. Racism will always be here. And it's just going to be more and more hidden. You know, as it becomes more and more taboo, it's just going to be more and more hidden. It's like basically going out there on the streets and then trying to see if somebody's going to be walking around naked or exposing their genitals. Well, you're not going to really find that. Everywhere you go, people are going to have their clothes on. That doesn't mean that the genitals don't exist. The genitals have always existed since we were born. But it's just that, you know, it's not going to be exposed out there in the public, but it will be exposed in private, for sure. And it will be exposed in the underground media outlets, which is all over pornography sites, all over, thousands, if not millions, if not billions of pornography sites all over the internet that are exposing genitals and all other stuff, and that cannot be stopped. So basically, racism in the public can be, you know, the law can help people suppress racism, but it will never cure, the law will never cure racism. Racism will just be expressed in private matters or in private situations, away from public eye. And, you know, it's still extremely strong. It's just very hidden and suppressed, and in a way it could be even more dangerous than just exposing it, you know what I mean? And I see that this, to me, could be a negative thing as far as what's going on, is because it could just influence people to be less honest. And with less honesty, you're just making and encouraging people to be even more false and to hide their true feelings. And then when people are hiding their true feelings, then they cannot be properly educated and properly, they can't be cured. It's like going to the doctor and not telling them where your aches and pains are. How is he supposed to treat you if you don't tell him where your aches and pains are? You know, he needs to know where your aches and pains are in order to treat you. So somebody that wants to cure themselves from racism needs to express and expose like their faults in their way of thinking in order for someone to help them to stop thinking in these unhealthy ways of viewing other people. I just appreciate honesty. That's what I appreciate. And basically people, what they're doing, they're punishing him for being honest. At least he's being honest with how he really feels, and they don't even necessarily have to ban him. It would happen on its own right. People would just not want to be associated with him, whatever the case may be. He's gonna pay for, but like I said, it doesn't really even matter because the guy's so rich, it doesn't even matter. You ban him, big deal. He's gonna take his money somewhere else. It's like, say he's got all this money and he's going to a restaurant and he's treating everybody like crap, and then they kick him out of the restaurant and say, you're never allowed to come here again. Well, he's always going to be able to find another restaurant to go to. You kick him out of there, what does that do? And then fining him $2.5 million, to him, that's like nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if he has 100 million or $100 billion, what's 2.5 million? It's like me having $100 and then you fining me $2.50. Well, I still got $98 or $97.50 left. You know what I'm saying? That's nothing. Fining me $2 and I got $100. So if he's got 100 million, which I know he does, he has more than 100 million. 2.5 million is, he's still got 97.5 million left. So that's nothing. I just see that this thing that happened really shows a deeper problem within our society and culture that we need to open our eyes to. Like, he's a owner of a basketball team that's pretty much all blacks, and it's not too different than how it was in the past. I mentioned this to my student, like, say, he's basically representing the slave owner. And my student even said, yeah, slave owners claim that, we feed them, we give them shelter, and we give them work. They are our slaves. What's the matter? What are we doing wrong? It's essentially like what's going on right now. Modern day slave owners. This owner of this Clippers team, and all these basketball players on the team, they're just highly paid slaves for the slave owner. He's working these slaves hard while he's making money off of them. So it's just not too different of how it was in the past. It's just that the slaves are getting paid more money. But the fact of the matter is, they are still slaves. You know what I mean? And people... Another thing I want to bring up is that, like, I'm really more disgusted with the mistress, and how she is like a complete gold digger in my eyes, that clearly is using this guy for his money, and then sets up and arranges this maybe entrapment, or just like basically setting him up, destroying his reputation, and blasting this all out for the public. I mean, really, I see that there's women out there like that do stuff like this. Like, this is something that they're both horrible people in my eyes. Obviously, he's not a good person for how he is, right? but she's a horrible person herself, you know, for what she's doing. You know, using this guy for the money, accepting all the gifts or whatever the case may be. You know, being the mistress when she already know when the dude's already married, and exposing that information for all the public to know, and you know, just putting this all out into the public in an unlawful way, because I don't believe that she was lawfully allowed to record the conversation without his permission, and then just exposing all of this, probably to gain more attention, get more money for herself. But really, it doesn't surprise me at all. Not at all. You know what I mean? Another thing that I want to bring up too is that I feel that for a fact, if it was another race, if it was Asian or Hispanic, people wouldn't really give a damn. But blacks, to me, are a lot more protected when it comes to things like this. Like, basically, there's always like a huge public outcry, and there's a lot of famous and rich black people that will speak against racism, and I mean, Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X were both speaking up against racism. You know, what type of Asian leader do you see that speaks against racism in the way that they did? You know, and you see all these black athletes, these rich athletes, Magic Johnson, Shaquille O'Neal, and all these famous black people putting in their 2 cents about what this guy said. I mean, they got so much support, but I feel that if it was an Asian person, an Indian person, a Hispanic person, Mexican person, or whatever, people don't give no two shits. Nobody even give a damn. But because it's a black person, you know what I mean, because he's attacking the blacks, you know, it's wrong. But if he was attacking Asian people, nobody give a damn. They'd even laugh along with it. That's what I see would happen. You know, and I think that's a very sad thing. You know, and I feel that really what's going on to me is that there's the whites that bully the blacks, like what's happening here. The white man's bullying the black people. And then there's going to be blacks that bully the rest of the minorities. There's going to be black people that are in power. They're going to bully the rest of the minorities. You know. And then the rest of the minorities are being bullied not just by white men like this guy, but also by black people as well. So I see that it's like a transfer of power, or a sharing of power. You got white bullies, say you call them white racists people that are white, and you got racist people that are black too. And then they could come together and be racist together. You know, it's like instead of having like a bunch of white police officers beat on a Rodney King, which is a black guy, now you have a bunch of white and black officers beating up on a Mexican or beating up on an Asian guy. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I see that's going on, is that like this struggle that we're going through, it will never end, because the struggle is essentially deeply rooted in the way the structure of our society, our economy is, and the way of our thinking that has been controlled and manipulated since birth. The structure all supports racism. But then all of a sudden we say it's against the law to be racist, or whatever the case may be, or that it's wrong, but the entire structure supports it to be right. You know, and that's why it will never be cured. It's like basically telling people to be healthy, to eat healthy, but then everywhere you go you see McDonald's and Burger King, and that's all you see. It's like telling people not to drink, but then everywhere you go there's a bar and there's liquor everywhere. You know what I'm saying? It's like telling people not to drive, but then everywhere you go, it's like 10 miles away. You know, it's like you're telling people not to be racist, but the entire structure of the society supports racism in everything. You know what I mean? Like categorizing people, labeling people, and everything. You know what I mean? It goes deep, but people don't really understand where I'm coming from. But I understand that, you know, that is a deep-rooted problem. And basically, the law's not going to fix it. Finding people money is not going to fix it. You know, it's just something, it requires a deep inner realization that takes time. You know. But I think, you know, but it is sad how, you know, Martin Luther King Jr. died like decades ago, and see how many struggles that we have, and how, you know, it's still so fresh in our minds, and how people are just still so sensitive about it. And you know what I mean, like we had the thing what happened with Trayvon Martin, now we got something like this. And it's just, I don't know, people, they like to talk about it, but they don't want to really cure it. Because like when you talk about curing it, they want you to shut up, because it goes against what they believe in. It's because they believe in competition, and you're telling them, if you want to cure racism, you gotta get rid of competition. But they're like, no, we're not going to get rid of competition. Well, if you're not going to get rid of competition, then racism will never be cured. You know? This just is what it is. You know, it's like trying to say, you know, how are we going to operate this car without wheels? Well, you need to use the wheels if you want to operate the car. But if you don't care for the car, then you don't need to worry about the wheels either. So basically racism, the way that I see it, it's so deeply rooted in this culture, this competition, this way of feeling your sense of superiority over another human being, and having this ego and this pride. This is one of the ugly expressions of this mentality is racism. And if you want to cure racism, you need to get rid of that mentality. Get rid of that ego. And that's what I've been trying to teach pretty much since I've been here. Is trying to teach people to turn that ego off and control it and get rid of it. So then that way you'll be cured. And that's all I gotta say.